Now, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has accused Russia of inflicting great suffering through its invasion of Ukraine during a debate on multilateralism chaired by Moscow's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Russia holds the Council's rotating presidency. Mr. Lavrov flew into New York to promote what he said was Moscow's defense of the UN Charter. European ambassadors called the move cynical, while Mr. Guterres said multilateralism should be inclusive.
We face unprecedented and interlocking crises, but the multilateral system is under greater strain than at any time since the creation of the United Nations. Tensions between major powers are at an historic high. So are the risks of conflict through misadventure or miscalculation. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, in violation of the United Nations Charter and international law, is causing massive suffering and devastation to the country and its people, and adding to the global economic dislocation triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Well, for more on that UN meeting and the war in Ukraine, let's speak to Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson, who's been monitoring developments from London. Good to see you, John. So the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov chairs a meeting of the UN Security Council and not surprisingly, he's faced a hostile reception from Western diplomats angry about the invasion of Ukraine. Tell us more.
Hey, Charles, good to see you. Well, yes, a very hostile reception, especially from the US and the UK. And the fact that Russia is chairing the Security Council horrifies some nations. The Ukrainians called it the biggest joke ever. However, with the way that the UN operates, that's how it works. And ironically, Russia was chairing the Security Council last year when the invasion took place. A year last February. The word from Lavrov today is that, it's a familiar one, that NATO has been threatening Russia for years. And he also referred to Western powers trying to contain China as part of the same kind of narrative. But, Lavrov's faced a lot of criticism for his boss's actions since the invasion, of course, and he's got very broad shoulders. The biggest criticism, I suppose, came, as I say, from the US. Linda Thomas Greenfield, the US ambassador to the UN, accused Russia of, in its invasion, of a blatant disregard of UN values and a gross violation of the UN Charter. But this was swiftly followed by Dame Barbara Woodward, the UK ambassador to the UN, who accused Russia of causing outrageous suffering to the Ukrainian people and accused Russia of trampling on the UN Charter, which, of course, Charles, just to remind ourselves, stands for, a peaceful settlement of disputes, human rights, the respect for a nation's sovereignty. So, yes, verbal broadside still flying tonight at this Security Council meeting being chaired by Lavrov, but I suspect that he expected it all along. Charles.
And John, what's happening in Ukraine itself right now? Because, there are plenty of reports about sort of missile attacks, skirmishes, and deployments on both sides.
Yes, I suppose the big news from yesterday was the reports that the Ukrainian forces had actually crossed the Dnipro River and entered territory occupied by Russia. Now, I would guide Rise News viewers to keep a very broad, open mind on this one, because the only confirmation of this has come from military bloggers on both the Russian and the Ukrainian side. And the Ukrainian government isn't commenting on this, and the Russians say that they remain in complete control of that particular part of Kherson province. I would be amazed if it's happened, because the Dnipro River is wide and it's deep and it's strong in that part of the world. So it will be a very brave and determined Ukrainian force to actually cross the river at that point, where I was, in fact, visiting earlier this year. and the mightiness of this river is just amazing. So for them to cross and to establish some kind of beachhead, I'm not so sure. Maybe they did do that, but whether they're still there, whether they were testing Russian defenses, perhaps is possibly an explanation for what's going on, but no confirmation either from Moscow or Kyiv that this has happened at all.
John, thanks very much indeed. John Cookson, Arise chief correspondent, talking to me there from London.